That sticky note, you're gonna put that right on here. How many miles you traveled to come to this event?
What color?
Are you gonna look it up?
Yeah. What color?
This part could be the color of your choice. Later on, I'm gonna tell you a specific color.
I'm colorblind.
You say no. Good question. You're a good student.
Jan.
There's a pin on my.
See it? It's on the deck. Penny from Colorado Springs.
From York? How far from
To
York?
Sue's to here.
You can't count all that.
Write it down and stick it.
Mark, we need some miles up here.
Do we have to put our names on it?
Yes. Put your name on your mileage paper because we're gonna see who came the farthest.
No, but Sue.
And then we can add the total number of miles that people came to come to this special event.
That was the one.
Do you need another pen? Do you need another piece of paper?
Maybe, because I can. Here. Do you want me to just. I thought she was starting, so I did it.
Oh. Well, just leave it. That way people can.
I wrote just fine on this one.
Who are you looking for? Who are you looking for?
Michaela! Oh! No, yeah, she said over there with Melissa. I thought I lost her.
Alright, we're gonna start, or we won't get finished in time. We're gonna be talking this afternoon about calving, and I want to be sure we get through all of that. This is the teacher. Thank you. Alright, I'm gonna show you just to bring us back together so much joy. This is one of Ray's pet steers. This is Roy. We have Ron and Roy. There'll be 5 in July. They weigh a ton each. Roy's horns are 65.5 inches across. I told Ray we really can't afford to keep these, and he said they work for us. When we have tourists come, we have agritourism guests, they get to feed Ron and Roy treats, and they are so happy and impressed. When we have young stock, we put them into a pasture that the families haven't been in, and they never try to get out because they want to stay with the big kids. And so I guess they do work for us. They gotta buy. And this is blow drying with a big hair blower. They get a lot of dust and lanolin, and they'll just stand there and blow to get blow dried. It's hard to tell who's enjoying it more. This is peaceful for Ray and it's peaceful for Roy. So everything that I know and everything that I've said, I learned from Ray. He's the real farmer. I'm not a real farmer. I've had to learn a lot. It's been a steep learning curve, but most days I'm incredibly grateful to be a farmer. I get to be outdoors. I get to help people have good food. I get to share the joy that Highlands bring, and I get to feel real. I can sit at the computer all day and do marketing and emails. Thank goodness I have to go to the barn and do chores, because I get out and I say thank you for helping me get out and be real. So for all of you that are farmers, which you all are, all the days aren't perfect, but it's a pretty good life. The reason that I'm doing the talking is that even though Ray knows all this, he has no idea about time. I'll tell you a story which probably rings true to you. When I first met him, we were going to meet at a county fair, and we set up a time, and I went, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and Ray never showed up. By the time he showed up, I was not in a very good mood, and I said, "Where have you been?" with a few expletives stuck in. He said, "We had a new calf." I said, "So?" He said, "So? I had to look for the calf." I said, "But we had an appointment. We had an 8. You're supposed to be here." He said, "And not look for the calf?" I learned that there is farmer time. And farmer time is about animals, and it's about weather, and it's about climate, and it's about what animals do. So, Dr. Jim Welch, some of you may have heard of him, he's from Vermont. He bought his first Highland from us, and he said there is a farmer gene. And he said Ray Shatney has that double. And many of you do also. So that's why I'm talking, because I look at the clock and I try to organize it so we can get everything in. But really, if you get a chance to ask him questions, he's the one that really knows the answers. We're going to talk this afternoon about calving. In a cow-calf operation, your most valuable product is your calf. It's actually your only product. Because if you feed that animal all year long and you don't get calf, you fed that animal for nothing. All that money, all that love, all that care, you get no calf and you have nothing. So what we're going to talk about is, hang on just a second. Sorry, that's the chief. So we're going to talk about what we can do to be sure that you get that calf on the ground, you get that calf healthy, and you get that calf to wean, and you get it to either a saleable animal or something that you're proud to have in your herd. We'll start at the beginning, before calving. On your paper, I want you to write a list of everything that you do that you can think of before calving to try to help you have a good, healthy calf. Some of it you might not even thought about. You were just doing it instinctively. But I want you to write down at least 5 things that you do prior to calving to help have a healthy calf and a successful product. And again, feel free to talk to the people at your table, share some ideas. Hey, David. Hold on just a minute. That's fine.
It's cheat sheet. I gotta put stuff on that.
I'm going to bring around a list of the things that we do before calving. You're going to look at them and say, oh, we do some of this too. What I want you to do is put an asterisk on my list of anything that you're already doing. Then I want you to highlight, you should have a highlighter in your bag. I want you to highlight at least 3 things that you don't do or hadn't thought of that you might be able to do. And then I want you to write down on your pink sticky note one thing that you're going to do when you go back that you didn't do before that you think might help you have a successful calving.
What are we highlighting?
Which ones? She said an asterisk for ones that we do.
Yeah.
Huh?
So I'm confused. What are the instructions, Janet?
Okay, so on that list, you're going to put an asterisk next to something that you already do or was on your list. I want you to highlight some things that you don't do that you might like to try, or that you think might work in your operation. And then I'm going to ask you to pick one thing that is new that you might be able to implement on your farm. Put it on your pink sticky note and hold on to that. I don't want everybody to get up right away because we're going to put some other sticky notes up. But hold on to your pink sticky note with one thing that you can do new that you haven't done before. Some of these you might say, hey, I'm already doing that. I never thought about that as something that helps with calving.
So this one, you can't do it alone.
She gonna let you do that? Tends to get complicated.
All right, anybody want to share something that you weren't doing that you might like to try in your operation? Way back in the back. You're going to have to really talk loud.
Free choice minerals.
Free choice minerals. That is key to having. That mama cow has to have those minerals. In Vermont, our soils are very selenium poor. If we don't supplement the selenium, we're going to have white mussel disease. So you need to find out what in your soil, your extension service, whatever, what do you need to supplement for minerals. We do it a couple of ways. We have a selenium block. We use Purina Wind and Rain, a loose mineral. You can use it in a tub, but you do need to be sure they have minerals at all times. Anyone else have something that they hadn't thought of before that they might ask their program? Yes, you, sir.
MFA, which is a local supplier, has a green cabbage, which has selenium.
Okay, great. So you've already got some good supplements. Anyone else? Yes.
We bought a new call.
A moo call is a great idea. If you don't know what it is, you put it on the tail and it lets you know through your phone or your computer of increased activity prior to calving. It's not 100% foolproof, but it sure is reassuring to have that. Great idea. Any other new ideas? All right. The second part. We've done the before the calving. Here comes the calf. We've got during the calving. Please write down at least 5 things that you do during calving to be successful. Again, some of it you might not have thought about that you were actually intentionally doing. I want you to think about what you intentionally do to help produce a healthy calf on the ground during calving.
Not very cabin.
What else? You ought to see it's generating the closed caption. Yeah, it's funny. What else? Anything else?
I know the way it's the way it's
And we pulled out
Part 2, here comes during calving. You know the drill. Put an asterisk next to something you're already doing. Highlight something that you weren't doing that you might be able to add to your program. And on your yellow sticky note, please write one thing that you can add to have a successful calf during the calving process.
first one.
All right, so on your yellow paper, you should have one item that you're going to add, hopefully, or try, to your program to help you have a successful calving.
I got it.
If you have questions, Ray is probably going to have to answer these, but any questions about during calving or anything that you saw that doesn't make sense or something that you don't think would work for you?
I'm sorry, but I have a question to go back to before. When you say, check to see if all tips are unplugged, do you milk them to pop that plug out?
So again, I like to have the cows calve in the barn. I don't want to go in the middle of the night and look to see if there's a calf. We're lucky that we have a gated barn that we can make different pens out of. And we bring the cow in when I have an approximate due date or if it looks like they're getting close to calving. When she asked if I milk the cow, the answer is no. That guy back there does. So you check and see if there's a clog over the end of the teat. You check to see if it has milk. Some of them we put in the chute to do it. I would say there might be, where's Ray? Ray, how many of them could you not check milk? Sometimes you walk right out in the pasture and just check the teats. Yeah.
So you open it up before the calf latches onto it?
Yeah, so when I say open it up, we don't put anything up inside, but sometimes they'll
But you
have
release
a
that plug,
dry.
that wax plug,
Yeah.
before the calf is born?
We want to be sure there's milk in every quart, if we can.
Aren't you afraid of mastitis if you open
We have not had that happen from doing that.
Can
We
you
don't
repeat
do it.
the question so the people in the back can hear you, Miss Janet?
So this gentleman asked if we worried about mastitis by taking that plug off. We have not had that happen. We don't do it far ahead, but if it's about to calve, we want to be sure when that calf latches on that it's going to be able to get milk.
Well, yeah, I know that. All right.
Any questions about
Well, we
during
never
calving?
pop that wax plug off.
I can tell you that Ray had not pulled calves until what, maybe 10 years ago? And it's not something that is easy, but sometimes it needs to be done. The other thing that when Ray says we need a vet, we need a vet. If it's something he can't take care of, we need to have the vet come. All right.
Do you use this? Do you use the sling scale to weigh the calves, or do you use the tape?
Say that again.
Do you use the sling to weigh the calves, or do you use the tape?
So I was just asked if we use a sling to weigh the calf. We don't do everything perfect. We don't weigh our calves. When the calf is born, I'll say to Ray, how much does it weigh? He said, that's not the important thing. I'll say to him, is it a bull or a heifer? He said, that's not the important thing. The important thing is making sure that that calf is healthy, that the cow is accepting the calf. And if there was extra time or it was a super easy birth, we might do that, but we don't weigh every calf. I have to confess. Our calves generally weigh between 65 and 70 pounds. Good question. Any other questions? All right. We're going to move into after calving. So what do you do after, sorry. Question? No? After calving. What do you do after calving? Your job is not done. It's nowhere near done. What do you do after that calf gets out successfully, however you had to do it? What do you do to make sure that that calf is thriving and healthy? At least 5 things on your paper that you already do. Put an asterisk next to something you're already doing. Highlight a couple of things that you think you might be able to add to your program. And on your purple sticky paper, please write at least one thing that you can add to your program to help that calf be a successful weaned calf. Does anyone want to share something from the after calving that you might add to your program? Or any questions? And you know, if something on these papers makes no sense to you for your program, that's okay too. Any after calving suggestions?
There's somebody back there.
I hear somebody. Yeah.
You don't know how they breathe it. Take a spear and crack a hay. Touch the cat on the nose. Blow that away. Jump out. Spear the nostrils like that.
So what Ray just said is if you're not sure if the calf is breathing, you take a stiff spear of hay or grass, poke it in the nose, and it will blow out, and you'll be able to tell if it's breathing. They used to say to turn them upside down or swing them around, and that's not considered appropriate practice anymore, at least by our vet. So in your packet, I just mentioned before, there's a paper about the stages of calving. We laminate that. That's tacked on the wall of the barn because I need to keep checking how many hours it's supposed to be. Is it too long at this stage? Is this stage going well? We had a cow 2 years ago that I knew what the due date was. We brought her in the barn and she started to go into labor and everything looked like it was going great. And then she stopped. And I started to panic. And I said to Ray, this is not okay, something's not right. He said, oh, let's just wait, let's give it some time. I said, it's not right. If she started labor, the vulva, instead of extending, had contracted. And he said, I'm going to go to Greensboro, and I'm going to do some chores up there, and we'll check on her when I come back. I said, no, I'm calling the vet. Usually he tells me to call the vet. I called the vet, I explained what happened. They said, we'll be there in 20 minutes. That calf was tangled up, head was backwards. That vet worked 2 hours inside that cow. She was sweating, pouring. I mean, it's a young lady, pretty tiny. She worked and worked and worked, and she got that calf out alive. If we had waited any longer, we would have lost the calf and possibly the cow. So if you have any questions and it doesn't seem like it's going right, get some help. This is your product. This is your only product. Yes, you're selling beef, but if you don't get that calf, you don't have the beef. So you've got to do everything you can to try to get that calf to be successfully born and reweaned. I'm going to show you some videos. This is after calving. And basically what we're looking for is the mother accepting the calf. Is the calf up within an hour? That cow right there is Brooklyn. That's the one that had the separate tendon. Does she look like she's having a problem? He's a little shell-shocked. He's just born. Luckily, he's got a mother that's going to help him right along. Yes.
So does that cow that had the severed tendon, does she get special care or is she out with everybody else?
When she came out of the barn, she'd been in the barn almost 6 months. I held my breath because I figured she'd stumble, she'd fall, she wouldn't be able to walk. Again, you go back on my Facebook page and there's a search bar and you put in Brooklyn, you'll get some pictures of her. She got out of that barn. She Ray put a bunch of sawdust. It was a little bit muddy. He put some sawdust in front to make it easier for her footing. She went out there. She put her head down. She started throwing that sawdust. She jumped around. She did twists and turns. She never missed a beat. I was worried about breeding. The bull mounting her and injuring her. Not a problem. As our vet said, Highlands are resilient. Do what you can. I'm going to take a chance. I think she's going to be fine. No, she runs, she jumps, she's just like anybody else now. I would never sell Brooklyn because if something happened, I know that she was injured. And I would not feel comfortable if something ever happened and someone said, how come she's limping or something. So she's got a buy to always be on the farm. She's our youngest animal on the farm. We sell all of our replacement heifers right now. She's 4, and she's the youngest animal we have. You see what Mom's doing? Mom's eating hay. That's a good sign. She's going to not be aggressive to the calf. She knows the calf is okay, and she's doing it just right. Someone just asked how long before they get up. They better be up within an hour, or you better be thinking about, do we have something else we should be doing? Most of these, and probably yours too, are up within 20 minutes. They're going to be wobbly, and sometimes the cow licks them and they fall over and the cow will roar and then they get back up again. I hate watching when the calf tips over and the mom gets panicky about it, but that's part of the process. That's what you want to see. These are all successful stories where mom accepted the calf and was a great mom. I can't say that happened 100% of the time. Highlands are good mamas, and most of the time they do it pretty effortlessly, both with the birth and caring for them. But you do want to watch, particularly with first calf heifers, you want to be sure that it's going to accept that calf. Sometimes the calf comes out and the heifer says, what the heck is that? That's not mine. I didn't do that. So you may have to separate the calf from the mother. Again, your product is the calf. If that cow is going to harm the calf, you need to figure out a way to protect it. They might have to be nose to nose through a gate. Sometimes with that first calf heifer, when that calf stands up and is wobbly, the heifer doesn't know what to do and might throw it or might go at it. We need to protect that calf. Sometimes it takes longer than with others, but most of the time, they can figure it all out. But again, it's our job to protect that calf and make sure it is safe and healthy. All right, we are now at weaning and socializing. So just getting a calf to nurse and getting them out to accept it, for us, is not enough. Everything we sell is halter trained, used to combing, used to human interaction, and wants to be with people. That's Ray's job. He has tons of patience. He'll sit with the calves on a bale of hay or a chair and just get them used to his voice, get them used to his touch. When we bring calves in for weaning, we bring them in at about 6 months old. We always bring them in with at least one other calf so that they've got a companion in the barn. We do fence line weaning, where mama and calf can put nose to nose. Conventional wisdom used to be you get them far apart and they're going to forget about each other. You're going to forget about your kids if they're far apart? No. If the cow can see where that calf is and smell it and see that it's okay, they'll come up several times a day, the first week or the first 3 days. Then mama will say, come out of the pen, the baby says, I can't. And so there'll be some barn music for a couple of days. But doing it this way, they're comfortable within maybe 4 to 5 days of the wellness. The calves don't lose weight. They're not stressed. Mom is not out looking for Ray. Ray will tell you that one of the reasons we did this is that in Greensboro, the farm is on Route 16, 2,500? 2,500 cars go by every day, about 60 miles an hour. And the barn is right tight to the road there. And he went up to Greensboro, and one of his cows was standing on the yellow line on Route 16 because it couldn't find his calf. Because we thought separating them, they would forget about each other. We don't do that anymore. They always go nose to nose. When we bring them in, if you put them in a small area, and again, we're lucky we have a barn that we can change the pens. I know everybody doesn't have that. And we can close them into a small area so they can't really run away from you. You just stand there, and when they walk by, Ray puts a brush on them. We use a soft, it's actually a dog brush. It has rubber bristles, it's round. Before we use that metal comb, he usually starts with that soft bristled brush. They walk by and he just puts it on them and puts it on them. And pretty soon, they say, hey, that feels pretty good. Actually, that sort of feels like Mama licking me. And that's how we tame them. So they get combed first. We never put a halter on them until they are socialized with the comb. Everything we do is to decrease stress for the animal. So they don't get haltered until they already know that they trust you and they already know that you're going to help them feel good and keep them safe. Once they're used to the comb, Ray will put a halter on them and sit in the pen. Again, different people do it differently. We never tie an animal to a tractor, a trailer, a donkey, a pony, nothing. You hold the halter and he will pull it a little bit. If they take a step, he combs them. Every single time they do what he asked them to do, they get combed. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It might be one step. Sometimes we have one that you'll see that used to get down on his knees. We never had one like that. On the halter, he'd get down on his knees and just sit like, I don't really like this. But you wait, it gets up, you put the comb on it, and pretty soon they'll be sitting there with their head on Ray's chin, it takes patience. We don't think it's a buyer's responsibility to tame an animal. We think that's the seller's responsibility. When you get an animal, it should be something that you can work with right away, that you're comfortable with, that you feel safe with, and that you don't have to say on Facebook where somebody responds and says, oh, wait a couple of years, it will tame down. You're not going to keep that animal a couple of years if it's aggressive and you're not comfortable with it. I tell people, if you're buying an animal, and I know this can't happen with everybody, but see if you can see it on a video being haltered. See if you can go see it and halter it. You're going to have a hard time haltering an adult animal that has never been haltered. You want your animal to be socialized and trained and tamed before you get it. We never halter break an animal. We don't believe in that term. We halter train an animal. We don't want to break an animal. We want it to trust us. Here's some, I think there's 4 or 5 in that pen that just came in that day, and Ray's combing them already.
I'm going to take this for a minute, because that's me and you on your cattle. When them animals are in there, there's one animal in that pen that has already been in the barn. And if you can reach, have one that you've worked with, and the other ones are a little nervous, you can come on and reach over the real tame one, and touch the animal next to it. After a while, that one will just stand there too, because it finds out its lights can't go on, and you can work with the next one. Also, you see in a small area, I mean, I don't have to chase that animal around the pen. I just reach over and keep reaching over. If you start trying to run up to it, get up closer to it, and it's too big of an area, it's going to keep running away from you. And the more it runs away from you, the more nervous it gets. Then it realizes, I can run away. So if they're restrained enough, so you can actually touch the animal without lunging to it or anything, it works a lot better. Now, this is something we didn't used to always do. The other thing is, I'm going to ask Janet if I can continue with what else I do with the halter.
Well, that's coming next. You want to go next?
Oh,
Go ahead.
she don't want me to keep talking. Where's my paper you gave me to talk about that clear piece of cardboard? Oh, that's it. That's when it's, you don't see a halter on it, but it sure likes being combed. And I think somebody in here just got one of our animals, a little bull named Charlie. I guess Charlie's quite a friend to somebody. But you can do that with him, and he wants it done. That is so much easier when you sell an animal. And the person buying that animal is able to do something like that with it when they get it within a short time. That person that's buying that animal will want another animal. If you're selling them an animal that they can't get near, and they're trying and trying, they'll give up. And they probably won't keep them animals very long. We want people to keep their animals, be happy with them, and work with them. Oh, here I am with Peppermint. See, Peppermint's going to get down on Peppermint's knees. But I'm not in a real big area with that calf. And see, I'm wrapping that rope around my hand just to work the calf around. And that animal is not really scared of me. That animal just doesn't want the rope.
That's the first animal.
That's the first day on the halter for Peppermint. And where is Peppermint now?
Maine.
Peppermint lives in Maine now.
So that's a crossbred
Yeah.
roan.
No horns. And Peppermint wants to get on her knees. And, or his or her knees, or his. His knees, okay. But that calf just likes to pray. He's very religious. Must be from Missouri. Slap me. Anyways, that's what we do with our cattle, and we didn't used to do this. And part of it was ignorance, and part of it was not having time to do it. Janet had a full-time job, I had a full-time job, and this was what we did, or tried to do, in our spare time that we didn't have very much of. So, now we do that. I can go to the barn and hide and do something like this, and see my phone don't work, so nobody can call me. And work with the animals. It's actually pretty rewarding, especially when you get somebody like that, and when you load them on a trailer, you lead them onto the trailer, and when they get to where they're supposed to be, you lead them off. They can lead them off the trailer and go to their new homes. And like Janet said, we do not sell an older animal. It's never been haltered. If we're going to do that, they go to the slaughterhouse. Because nobody needs that problem. And I don't want somebody else getting hurt when it would be our fault. Thank you.
I tell people this is a buyer beware market, and I'm not discouraging anybody from buying something or saying that you shouldn't buy a certain animal. But it's a buyer beware market because there are animals going on the market because of the high prices. And often when you buy an adult animal, it's an animal that didn't work for somebody else's farm. That's something you want to be very careful about. If you're selling an adult cow, it's often because you're culling that animal. It didn't work well. If somebody said, this one didn't fit into my program, it's not going to fit well into your program. So be careful. I'm not telling you not to buy anything, and I'm sure that everybody in here is careful about the buying and selling, but we're at a time where we want to be sure that every animal that you buy, whether it's from us or anybody else, is something that you're going to be safe with, enjoy, follow your dream, and help you love Highlands forever. And that's really important. All right, on your paper, please write down 3 to 4 things that you do after calving when you start weaning and socializing. It's different for everybody's program. Everybody doesn't have to do it the way we do it, and as Ray said, this isn't how we always did it. We didn't have time. And it takes time, and we're very grateful with selling one farm, downsizing another, the smaller animals. We both work full-time on the farm. I know that everybody can't do that. We couldn't do it for many years. But it allows us to have the time to do what we think is right. So, write down 3 or 4 things that you do when you bring your calves in for weaning, the way that you want to socialize them, either to be successful in your herd or in somebody else's.
How much are we going to do as they go? They want to pick them up.
You can talk to people at your table, see what they do for weaning, see how they do it. All right, coming around is the reading and socializing paper. You know the drill. Put an asterisk next to something you're already doing. Highlight something that you think you'd like to try and maybe add to your program. And on your green piece of paper, write down one new thing that you can try on your farm to be successful with weaning and socializing. Does anyone want to share something that they might add to their program that they weren't doing before? So someone just added that they sing to their calves and they sing to their animal. I do too. I think they like it. A lot of people keep a radio on in the barn or something for music to entertain them. I think it's relaxing to them. If you want to add to your paper, sing to them. Wow. I'm a teacher. I never thought of this. She reads books to her animals. Highlands are smart. I didn't know they could read, but maybe they can. They just enjoy it. Any other things to add to this or something new? All right, we got one more video. And
I got a question for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't talk about like feed supplementation when you do weaning. I didn't hear it.
So when our calves come in, the question was, what do we do to supplement our calves when they come in for weaning? Thanks for asking that. When they come in for weaning, we do introduce them to grain because they've got a drop in protein from mama's milk switching over to hay. And also, even though our animals are grass-fed and grass-finished, we want them to know what grain is. We want them to know what candy is, so that if we need to move them or we need to separate them, we can shake a pail, we can give them some grain. When we introduce them to the chute, we usually put some grain in front of them in the chute so they're comfortable in the chute. We think it's important for them to know what grain is. When we introduce them to that is when they come in from weaning, for weaning. Good question.
At what age, I mean, you said 6 months is your weaning age, you don't go haltering. Do you ever halter them younger than 6 months?
So we usually do not touch an animal from the day that it goes out for the fence training, which is about 1 week old, till they come in for weaning when they're 6 or 7 months old, between 6 and 7 months old. This year, we have a calf that was born in November. If you've looked on my Facebook, we call her Miss November. She was born November 1st. That's a mistake. That's a mismating. We're not proud of that, but it's worked out great because she and Mama had to stay in front of the barn for the whole winter. They needed to be able to go in and out. She's spoiled rotten. She is halter trained. She loves people. She's a star of the show for agritourism. It's worked out really, really well to have a very small animal for young children who might not be comfortable even next to the 6 or 7 month old weanlings. She will follow you everywhere. If you're outside, you'll feel a little tug on your pants, and that's Bonnie. She's right behind you wanting some attention. She's learned to take off Ray's cap. He'll sit down on a chair or a bale of hay, and she'll reach up and take off his cap. She also likes to untie shoes and bootlaces. So as you're combing her, she puts her head down, and you think she's just relaxing, but she's working hard. There were some people there the other day, and I said, Bonnie likes to untie shoelaces. She looked down, she said, oh, I guess she does. She already untied both of her bootlaces. So generally, we do not halter train them until they come in. And if we tried to walk out into the pasture and touch them, these guys look super tame and super calm. Quick, fast, in a hurry. We can't touch them from that first day when we put them out back in the pasture with Mama, because Mama says, no, remember, we don't want you to have people contact. But when they come into the barn, they have already been combed. They've already heard our smell. They've already heard our voices because they were in the barn for about a week before they went out. We didn't used to do that. It's made such a difference in how easy it is to tame them. Not only does Ray have more time, but having them calve in the barn gives them that imprinting on people already. And so it's much, much easier for us to start to work with them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
If you don't really work with them until they're 6 months old, when do you vaccinate? Give their first vaccination?
Okay. So they do not get any vaccinations till they come in for weaning. The only thing, and again, it's different in different parts of the country. For us, the only vaccinations that they get shipping fever for when they're sold. They get a dose and then another booster 3 weeks later. They get rabies. They get 7-way for blackleg. We never used to do that because we don't have blackleg in the Northeast. We sold an animal to Oklahoma. She actually got sold in Denver. She got blackleg. That was traumatizing to us because it would have been preventable. We didn't know. She survived, but it is lucky that she did. So they get a 7-way for blackleg. If they're female, they get brucellosis. That's the only vaccines that we give, and they get them when they come in for weaning. That's also when we do castrating. If it's a bull calf that we're going to castrate, at 6, 7 months, Ray gives a tetanus shot. 3 weeks later, they get a second tetanus shot, they get banded, and they get rabies. And Banamine. We didn't used to do that. They now get Banamine. It makes a huge difference. They're not uncomfortable. They get up, they start eating, and we've never had any ill effects from castrating.
How soon do you castrate? You castrate at birth, 6 months? 6 months?
6 months, yeah. And part of that is for us, when we're selling breeding stock, we might not know who is going to be breeding stock and who's going to be a steer. And also, we want to be sure the testicles are fully distended. And you can't always tell that at birth or when they're super young. And for us, that timing works just fine. We also don't want to castrate them in the summer. And so when they come in for weaning, it's usually October or November, cooler weather with no flies.
How do you decide who gets castrated?
How do we castrate them?
How do you decide who gets castrated, who's suitable?
So our shorthorn Highland crosses, if it is a bull, it is going to be castrated. We do not use those for breeding. Our Highlands, and I don't want to sound braggadocious, our Highland bulls are all breeding quality bulls. And I can say that because we have a closed herd. We've had a closed maternal line for 45 years. We have very tight genetics. There's a geneticist from Chile who has studied our fold, who we learned so much about. He said, you have no defects in your herd. You have no bad traits in your herd because they would have shown up.
All of the cows are related in some ways. Maybe back a while, we don't do the inbreeding, we do bring in bulls. Because we're not saving replacement heifers, we can use a bull for a long time. The calves that are 2023 calves are gonna look exactly like the 2024 calves. They're gonna look exactly like the 2025. They might have different colors, they might have slightly different horn configurations. They are cookie cutter animals. And so when we go out into the pasture and we look at them, they look exactly like the ones from the year before and the one after. It's a unique situation, and because we've been doing it this long and kept this closed maternal line, we have not bought a female in over 47 years. So generally, our bulls are sold for breeding stock. Now, this year I'm going to be faced with a dilemma because our bull gave us 15 bull calves and 4 heifer calves. I said, don't ever do that again. That's not acceptable. I don't think I could sell all of those bull calves, as good as they are. So I suspect that some of those will be castrated. The problem for us is that in terms of the beef market, remember, I can't sell those steers after their horns are over 28 inches to our USDA slaughterhouse. So we hope we don't have Highland steers. The Highland steers that we might end up with are going to have to be processed on the farm. They can be sold by the half and the quarter. That's not as easy for us as selling by the package to the co-op. Some of the steers can be sold as pets. Peppermint, that crossbred steer, was sold as a pet with a Highland, pure Highland steer. So the woman bought 2 steers for pets. But if we had one that we didn't think was thriving or we didn't think looked as good as we might want them to look, we would castrate them. Any other question? Okay, so you have filled in all of those papers. You should have some new ideas for before calving, during calving, after calving, and weaning and socializing. There's one more video. This is Ray with done calf. Oh, this is our first done calf in 50 years. You're thinking, how could that happen?
I've actually put this calf behind part of a pen so he can't get away. And it was one of the last calves I think we weaned. So he's in there alone. That might be long. But anyways, there's calves just the other side of him there that he'll go back with. But I got him in there and I'm holding there so he can't get away. So I can get him used to the phone. As long as he can't get away from me. If he could get out behind there, he'd go out the other end of the tent. But he can't, and I'm filming him. Now he's got his head down, and he's actually thinking about, maybe I don't feel so bad. And we didn't used to do this. I run my mouth, narrate some of these things I'm doing, and Janet records it. So I have to be really careful what I do. And sometimes I don't say everything quite right. It's just a misunderstanding. You hear like a word that may be pronounced wrong. That's what it is. So, but what we've learned, it is easier to go up to the barn and work with these animals and be in there with them. You don't have to holler, don't raise your voice. That's one thing. You don't want to be around them, Janet. That go up. Oh, there it is. Sorry. You don't want to be up around the barn. If you want to see how a marriage works, don't be up around the barn and try to move cattle with your husband or wife. You may hear some misunderstood words. And so anyways, but it's easy to go up there and work with them. We have the squeeze chute. Them calves will go back and forth through the squeeze chute. with the gates open, they just go in and out. So they get learned to, that's not gonna hurt them. And they'll just go back and forth through it. Am I shutting up now, Janet? Oh, okay. But we don't want to sell cattle to somebody, and we've done it in the past. We didn't used to always do it like this. But I was looking at something up front here a few minutes ago. There's a photo album over here. I don't know whose photo album is that right here. Little one. Have her come up here a second. Come here. That's not okay? She said that's not okay. Come up here. What's your name? Oh, Kimber. I can read. Second grade. This book, photo album she's got here, we were all like this as kids when we went to local fairs and stuff. And to look at this book and what this girl is doing with these animals, hugging them, loving them. She cares about the animals, and what she's doing there is putting these animals in front of other people that can do the same thing. That probably promotes the Highlands as much as anything when you go to a fair or anything. If you can do that with your animal, people are coming, you're letting them see the animal, they're falling in love with that animal. And if you get a chance, look at this album. I was just happened to walk over here and look at it a few minutes ago. It's well worth looking at it. Thank you, Kimber.
At this point, I'm going to ask you to, let me make sure I got to everything. Very well. Making socializing. Okay. I'm going to ask you to come up, and on the chart, you're going to put your color-coded ideas and give people a chance to read what you've put up there and learn from all of us about what we can do to be more successful with our most important product. I want to thank you all for coming. It has been such an honor to get to talk to you. I learn every time we do this. When I made these lists, I didn't realize all the things that went into the calving and all the things we were doing. And I said to Ray, what do we do? And there were things that we had taken for granted. Not that this is a Bible. I think these are good resources to have. We hang up that calving process, the different stages. I think if you refer back to these, sometime you'll find something, hey, now I can do this on my farm, and I can do a better job. Thank you all for coming.
I shared these on Facebook, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect, please. That's wonderful. Hey, put stickies up here, and I think the next thing is the meeting. There's a break before the annual meeting.
Yeah.